Sounds good.
Welcome to Behind the Muscle podcast. Today's guest is an IFBB pro. Today's guest is Zack Romano. Zack, welcome to the podcast, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure, dude. So I'm looking forward to chopping up with you. I kind of want to just start things off, Zack, by asking you a couple of questions that I ask all of my guests, just to kind of get the conversational ball rolling, so to speak. So the first question I have for you is, who are a few of your favorite bodybuilders of all time?
Oh, favorite bodybuilders. Aesthetic wise and what I wanted to look like, I would go with Flex Wheeler. That's big for me. Some of the more mass monsters that I kind of like grew up watching, like trending on YouTube and all that, is Ronnie Coleman, Jay Ranch Warren, Johnny Jackson. So that's kind of like where my style of lifting actually came from, was those guys.
Awesome, man. Okay. Talk to me a little bit about when you started lifting weights, and then why did you start lifting weights at that specific age?
Oh, let's see. I think I started lifting around 13, 14. I was just like a smaller kid. And my dad was like a bigger dude. So I just kind of went over to that side and just fell in love with it ever since.
Did you start lifting weights because of sports, or was it just something that you kind of found yourself doing?
No, I always had an interest in it. Like I said, my dad was a bigger guy, so it was like he was always lifting, and I just always wanted to be bigger,
Yeah. I do know, man. Most of us growing up, we want to be bigger. We want to be jacked, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So talk a little bit about your childhood, your upbringing. Where did you grow up? What was your childhood like? Talk us up to about high school, and then we'll transition from there.
So I grew up in Fayetteville, North Carolina, in a small town called Graves Creek. It's a town where everybody knows everybody. Pretty normal childhood. Grew up with an older and younger brother. My mom was a single mom. Parents were divorced. My dad was in the military, so he was always like away to Iraq and Afghanistan doing tours and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, we grew up just how you would imagine boys in the 90s. Played sports, got in trouble, but for the most part, we were good kids. I got a very big family on both sides, so we were surrounded by family constantly, going to each other's houses, different things like that. But
what sports did you play?
We did like football and basketball growing up. But then when I got to high school, that's when things really started to turn for me. Like I was really obsessed with working out. I'd spend 2 hours in my room with the door shut, music blaring, not letting anybody in, just getting my thing done. But and I picked up partying too. I think around my sophomore or junior year. So between that, I mean, that's pretty much all I did in high school.
Okay. Now, when you say partying, is that like just drinking, or did you get into drugs or what?
No, so I never got into like drugs. It was just drinking. I was just like every other kid. You know.
Well, some kids at that age, man, hit the drugs pretty hard, especially when you're a small town. I'm from a town of 5,000 people in Iowa, and you got beer drinking, you got drugs, you got sports, and that's about it. So
Yeah, I chose the beer drinking route. That's probably why I don't do it now anymore. But
yeah.
You can get it all out your system.
Yeah. Now I know you said that your dad was deployed and stuff like that. But you did mention that he was kind of like a bigger guy and everything, and that had some sort of influence on you. Did him being in the military and kind of being, that type of a man, that type of an individual, did that kind of rub off on you in terms of, did you kind of aspire to be like that or look up to him because of maybe his military experience, or not necessarily?
I mean, yeah, we're doing military push-ups as punishment. We were kids. No, it was just like everybody was like, when they saw me, like, he's a big dude. I think he was like 6 foot, like 270 at his heaviest. So it was kind of like I wanted to be stronger and bigger than him. Everybody wants to be bigger and better than their dad. So
okay. Who are some of your sports idols growing up? You said you were a 90s kid like myself, so I know like the Bulls were big time at that point. Who are some of the sports teams or the sports athletes that you looked up to?
I was a Duke fan growing up, still am, but I don't keep up with it as much. And family has ties to like Florida, so I became a Dolphins fan. But like I said, I don't keep up with that too much anymore.
Okay, cool, man. All right, so once high school finished, where did life take you? How did life unfold post high school immediately after?
So right after graduating, I had no plans. I was just lifting weights and, like I said, partying. And I remember my older brother, we're in the same grade. He just randomly woke up that summer and was like, I'm going to Greenville, North Carolina, to apply for college. And I didn't want to go the day he was going because I wanted to hit a PR in deadlifts. So I was like, just wait. And he didn't wait. So I ended up jumping in the car with him. I was mad as hell the whole ride, though. I remember I was facing the window like this, not, paying attention to him. But so that got me into college in Greenville at Pitt. It's like a little community college, which was good. I needed that before I got to university because I messed off my first 2 years and almost failed out. But got my grades up and transferred to East Carolina. But at the time, I was doing security, so that kind of helped get me out of the scene while keeping me in it in a way. So that's between those two things, my brother doing that and then getting, working at a club kind of straightened me out a little bit.
Okay. Now, were you just kind of like living life, as a teenager in your early 20s? Were you just kind of living life, just like you said, you were partying a lot, but I mean, did you have any outside of the working out, which we're going to get into that obviously here in a minute, but outside of working out, did you have any other interests or did you have any thoughts about like a career or what you wanted to do? Or again, were you just kind of living life and taking it one day at a time at that point?
I wanted to get paid to lift weights. I mean, I know as funny as it sounds, but that's what I enjoy doing. I didn't miss workouts. I don't think I've ever, since I started, to miss an entire week. It's just something I really enjoy doing. But no, I figured I wanted to do something along the lines that had to do with health and fitness. I just didn't know what. And, took time to figure it out, but.
Okay. So did you finish college or did you just take some classes and figure out that it wasn't necessarily for you?
Oh yeah, I finished college. Only took me 7 years.
Okay.
No, I'm the type, man, when I start something, like I'm not going to stop till I finish it, no matter how long it takes. And that's kind of why it took me a little bit to start competing, because I didn't step on stage till 2018. I wanted to finish college, and I knew if I started competing, it was going to take away from school, and I would put 100% effort into competing versus finishing school. My advisor even told me, she said, if you put half the effort into your schoolwork as you do your training, you'd be on the dean's list, which I never was, but we made it. So.
So what's your degree in then?
I got an exercise science degree as a health fitness specialist.
Okay. So I have a degree in exercise science. I don't think it really means a whole lot. Do you feel like your 7 years in college and getting that degree, did you learn anything or was it just kind of whatever?
I would say college did me well because it helped me think outside the box as far as like troubleshooting, and expanded your thought process and made you dive deeper into things like that. But for me, it's not like a make or break if you have it. It does help because you do learn the human body and the insertions, and the function of the muscles. When I got in that degree, I was like, man, I'm about to blow through this shit. Like, this is going to be a breeze. And then I got to my strength and conditioning class and it slapped me in the mouth. I mean, there's so much that goes in. I mean, I'm sure so much that goes into those classes and the labs and all that. It's a lot more than what I bargained for.
You're funny, man. Hence 7 years, huh? So did you just take some time off or did you from college? Why did it take you 7 years to get that degree?
Because the first 2 years, like I said, I almost fell out. I mean, I was just partying and just trying to have a good time. But then what really set me back was I was trying to transfer to East Carolina University and I had roughly 90, 100 credits, and they didn't take but like 20 or 30 of them. So I think it was 23, 24, And I already took a couple PEs or whatever you want to call them at Pitt. And, you know, I got East Carolina, like, no, you got to take another one. And it was a freshman class. So here I am, 250-pound bodybuilder taking classes with 18-year-old kids, you know. But the cool thing was, I probably shouldn't say this, the teacher instructor or whatever, he was one of the student instructors. He's found out I worked at a nightclub. So we had a deal that I'd let him skip the line if I didn't have to come to class. So
there you go.
Kind of bartered a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I didn't do that specifically, but I had an advisor that, helped me out a little bit with my degree. So it is what it is, as they say. Okay. So I want to ask you, how did you kind of find your way into bodybuilding? Like, was it a magazine? Was it a YouTube video? How did you kind of first get exposed to bodybuilding? Not just like, working out, push-ups, sit-ups, but actual bodybuilding. Like, what was your first exposure?
So with us being three boys, we were never allowed to be at the house by ourselves because we'd wreak havoc. So everywhere my mom went, we had to go, like grocery stores and stuff. And every time we go to a grocery store, I'd always go to the magazine aisle and I'd pick up like the muscular development, health and fitness, just one of those magazines that just think to myself, like, I'm going to be on that one day. So that's kind of where like I first got introduced to it. And then, obviously with training and stuff, you get more involved.
Do you remember the first bodybuilder that you saw on a magazine cover?
No, I don't think I remember the first bodybuilder, but I do remember the first supplement I bought because of the guy on the cover. It was a creatinine, basically a creatine supplement, and Flex Wheeler was on it. And I was like, holy shit, like that dude looks good. Like, that's what I want to look like. So.
And you thought by taking that supplement, you'd start looking like him or what?
No, I thought as soon as I finished that thing, I was going to look just like him. I was like, man, I'm going to be a beast. And, that's funny. That's how I was telling somebody the other day about this. That's how they used to sell supplements, right? They would put a bodybuilder's horrible off season and then they'd put, pre-contest, and it's like, look like this, drink this shake. So it's kind of funny how things have changed.
Do you remember the Lee Priest articles where he's like 300 pounds, just sloppy, and then it was like the transformation? Remember that one or not?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a pretty popular one for sure. So now, okay, so it sounds like even in high school, going into college, like you were like focused on the fitness thing, the bodybuilding thing. So talk about from the time of you working out as a teenager, kind of on your own in your room, to then actually starting to train as a bodybuilder. Walk us through that, because it sounds like you were lifting and training bodybuilding, like even through college, through the party years. So talk about that.
Yeah. So when I first started, besides push-up, I would do like 200 push-ups a night, 200 crunches, 200 sit-ups. But then I started getting weights. I curled 5 nights a week. Sit-ups, I would do different things with the curl bar, dips on, kitchen stools, and got creative. Then in high school, we had a weight room and weightlifting class, but we had a small weight room and nobody really took it serious. So luckily the coach let me dip out 4th period and actually go to gold so I could really lift. So I started there and, I was doing everything wrong. And I tell people nowadays, like, if you don't want to go through that trial and error of what to do, what not to do, just hire a coach. But so I did a lot of trial and error and stubborn, trying to hit PRs all the time. Actually just quit doing that maybe 3 years ago. So, okay. But yeah, always bodybuilding style. I consider it more of a power building. I was hitting pretty heavy weight for reps. So, I really didn't dial my training specifically into bodybuilding until I want to say 2017. Like strictly bodybuilding, like not trying to power build, because I was on the fence about, do I want to power lift because I was pretty strong, or do I want to bodybuild? And at one point I thought I was going to do both in the same year. Okay. That's called wishful thinking, but yeah.
Okay. So as you kind of just went to the gym and kind of trial and error stuff, like you said, was there a point where you hired a coach, or just, through maybe your education at college? How did you kind of evolve your training? Was it just through the magazines, YouTube? Walk us through that for a quick minute.
YouTube. I spent hours and hours from the time I started to about, I think like my junior year in college. I mean, I would spend 30 minutes watching, workout videos before I would train while I was drinking pre-workout. But yeah, I would just pick, if I liked so-and-so's shoulders, I would see what he was doing his shoulder workout. And then if this dude had a massive chest, I'd see what he's doing for chest. And I would just kind of pick different things that different people were doing and combine them to myself. And that's actually what's worked best for me. Just doing it that way.
Okay. And so who were some of those guys on YouTube that you were kind of watching and getting some information from at that point?
Mainly Ronnie Coleman.
Awesome.
That's why my training's the way it is. Like I just really enjoy it. You get the adrenaline rush lifting that kind of weight for reps. But him, I remember watching Jay Cutler, and then Johnny Jackson and Branch Warren were the two that just like, that's where I kind of learned that intensity level. The style of training more so Ronnie, but that intensity, it was them two. And it was just like, get your blood pumping while you're watching a video. I thought that was pretty dope.
Yeah. Cool, man. Okay. So your first competition, I believe you said, was 2018. Is that correct?
Yeah, 2018.
Okay. So at that point, did you hire a coach? And then talk about your first competition.
Man, I did it ass backwards. I tried to do it on my own. And then I think 4 weeks out, I hired Patrick Richardson, which is an IFBB pro in bodybuilding. Poor Patrick, man, had to deal with my check-ins were late, horrible, never on, never fully. I didn't understand how to do all that. I was never really shown. But he laid out my diet for the last 4 weeks. He actually got me in pretty good shape. I could have been a lot leaner. But in my class, I beat, I think, 2 guys. I was kind of disappointed that it was only 3 of us in there. Just missed out on the overall. But I realized from that point, I was like, man, I have got to get a lot more conditioned. Because that's essentially what I lost to, was conditioning. So it took a whole year off before I did my next competition. But Patrick's a very busy guy. He's got a photography business, nutrition shop, and he works with very small handful of people a year, so he doesn't overwhelm himself. So I started my second show completely by myself and ended up winning the overall. But the stress of it was just too much. Making those decisions whenever you're already second guessing yourself and, low food and all that good stuff. But after that, I ended up reaching out because that same year I did the Charlotte Cup, won that. And then I was like, all right, I'm gonna do nationals in November. About 7 weeks out from that, I realized that I wasn't headed in the direction I needed to be to win. So reached out to Matt. You guys did a podcast not too long ago.
Matt, who?
Cusano.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
So he had always been reaching out to me, just helping me with a little bit of advice here and there. So I hired him to be a second eye, and then we hopped in our first classic show, won the overall, and then went to nationals, won my class, and then just missed out on the overall to conditioning once again. But yeah, we've been working together ever since. So only 2 coaches.
Okay. I have to ask Matt who, because man, I do at least 1 or 2 podcasts every day. So there's a lot out there, a lot of names. But okay, now so your first few competitions, did you compete in like open men's bodybuilding, and then did you transition over to classic at some point? At what point did you do the classic when you connected with Matt? Is that what you said?
Yeah, so I was convinced I was going to be open bodybuilder. I didn't give a damn. Like, I'm telling you, I'm hard-headed. So I was convinced on doing that. I actually wanted to do open at nationals, except I had a long conversation with Matt, I think 5 weeks out. He wanted me to do classic. I didn't want to do it, but I was like, all right, I'll do both. Emailed the promoters. I was going to pay $750 or $700 or something to do both divisions. But for some reason that year, they were saying you could only do one. So I talked to him. I said, man, I'm just going to do open. Like, I don't want to do classic. For me, I felt like it was the easy way out. I didn't know much about it. So then we got on a call and he's like, well, how comfortable are you, being 330 pounds in the off season? And I looked at him, I was like, I'm not doing that. And he was like, well, these guys are much shorter than you and they're 270, 280, 290 on stage. So you have to be minimum 300. And he told me everything that's going to come with that, with the food, supplementation, all that. I was like, that's just not me. I'm a bare minimum guy. So hopped over into Classic and been here ever since.
Okay. And so what year was that then that you transitioned from Classic?
2019, it was 5 weeks before Nationals. And then we found a show literally 2 weeks out from Nationals that we could hop into last minute to re-qualify because they wouldn't let the open bodybuilding qualification count for Classic.
And then, so you got your pro card then in 2019 at Nationals in Classic Physique, right?
Yeah. So I did 3 shows prior to that and then Nationals.
Right. Which that's pretty uncommon. Even, I mean, I personally nowadays, Classic Physique is not the easy way to get a pro card. I mean, if you look at Classic Physique, dude, it's the most competitive, deep, section of bodybuilding out there. I mean, it's unbelievable. There's like over 50 guys qualified for the Olympia this year. So that's definitely anymore. Maybe way back in the beginning, not anymore. That's definitely not true. Now, in terms of doing 3 shows and then turning pro, so at what age so when you did your first comp in 2018, how old were you?
Oh shit. I'm 30 now, so.
Okay, so you're in your mid to late 20s.
Mid 20s, yeah, 25,
okay,
26.
Okay, so you had been training pretty consistently and pretty hard for quite a few years before you even stepped on a bodybuilding stage then, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think I had 12 years under my belt of just, consistent, not missing a beat.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So it only took you 3 shows to turn pro, but if you look at all the work that you've done leading up to that, I mean, you put in at least a decade, right? So looking back now, which it doesn't really matter, but I want to pull this out of you for the sake of people watching and listening, right? Do you feel like you would have been able to turn pro as quickly as you did if you would have competed earlier? Or do you think that people need to think about laying that foundation first and putting in at least a good 5 to 7 years of training before they really are realistically going to possibly turn pro?
I don't think I have the mindset of many. Like, I have the patience to know if I want to accomplish something, I know it's going to take time. So I'm willing to put in that kind of work. I do think people should lay out a foundation before you ever think about stepping on stage. But then again, I also have to consider they probably don't have the same mentality that you want to be a top guy, you want to win the Olympia. Like, for somebody that just wants to get on there, just try it. I mean, yeah, but lay that foundation. I mean, the reason why I did it that way, because I didn't want to step on stage and be one of these guys that takes 5, 6, 7 years to go pro. I told myself, I'm gonna give myself 5 shows. If I don't turn pro in 5 shows, then it's just not for me, because I already put in that decade of work, and that's how I am with anything. I don't want to step on there unless I'm going to be better than last time, and if I have a chance of winning.
So what was your in the beginning of this entire bodybuilding process, like, has your mindset and goal kind of been to be a Mr. Olympia?
Oh, 100%. I mean, this is all I do, so that's the ultimate goal. And like I said, my weight cap's 240. I'm 6'1", so it's 240, and I'm still got 12, 14 pounds to add on.
Yeah. Okay. So. All right. So your pro debut from your Instagram, I gathered, was the Chicago Pro in 2020. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
Okay. So 2019, you turned pro. 2020 is the COVID year. Talk about just how did that kind of process unfold for you and Matt with COVID happening? Were you planning on doing an earlier show? Chicago Pro, I think, was kind of towards the fall time. So walk us through how that process unfolded in 2020 for you, Zack.
Well, I was working in the fitness industry, so gym shut down in March, so became unemployed like everybody else. But I was driving out to the office gym, which I work now, They're in South Carolina, and they're the only gym close to me that was open, and that's a 45-minute drive. So I started driving out there. Then they got shut down and reopened. Matt had a facility that I was training at that had bare minimum equipment. I had a squat rack and a raggedy bench. So, I mean, I got a picture of it. I got like bands and all stuff around it because they didn't have enough weight for me to really push the way I wanted to. But so I did that for a little bit, and then finally started going back to the office and training there. Luckily, had access to a full gym. But I ended up, so with the shows too, they were like canceling shows left and right. Like Chicago was actually in Atlanta. So that I didn't find that out until about 7 weeks out where they changed. And I just tore both my glutes. I tore my glute max and the glute medius on my right side from front squatting. So initially, I think that was in like the beginning of the summer. We had obviously shut it down for the season. So I didn't plan on competing. And then, like I said, once I saw that was in Atlanta, I was like, dude, we got to at least try it. So my training was limited. I mean, I was training maybe 4 days a week. We limited my upper body training so I didn't keep growing because I'm not the type, if I don't train my legs, they shrink. So I got to constantly do that, but was able to go out there within 7 weeks, you know, and get I think it was top 6 out of 32. So it was a pretty stacked show too. That was the last qualifier for the year. And with so many shows canceled, I mean, it was a massive show.
Yeah. How did you feel about your pro debut then? Like personally, I mean, you sound like you have a pretty solid mindset in terms of what your future goals are. Were you pretty satisfied with the pro debut?
I was content with it because I knew, like, you know, you chose to do it after a glute tear, 2 glute tears. It was the lowest weight I've been on stage. So, I mean, and then my posing, I got all in my head, but it was a good experience. I mean, I stepped next to some pretty solid physiques, especially when you consider like pro debut out of 32 guys. But yeah, I was pretty content with that. I just knew that I could have came in a lot better.
Okay. All right, dude, I got to ask you about glute tears. I mean, that's something that's not brought up on the podcast every day. So you said you did it by front squatting. I mean, were they severe tears or micro tears or what? And then how long did it take you to kind of recover from that?
So they were grade 1 tears, so they didn't require surgery. But I'm gonna tell you, that was probably one of the worst injuries I've ever had because sitting down, getting up, sleeping, like everything was just off. Yeah, I was front squatting 405, which I mean, I've done for reps. Like it was nothing new, but I was at that point where I was training heavy every single day. And before that, I was deadlifting like 600 pounds, rowing 455. So my lower body kind of already took a hit and then came in there and did that. Went to the doctor, you know, he was surprised. He was surprised that I told him it was in the gym because he said majority of these tears in your glute come from like a car accident or something. So as far as recovery, I couldn't do much of anything for 2 weeks, but really it lasted like it was more like PTSD. I was scared to hit legs again. I was, you know, so I kind of eased off of that for like the next 6-7 months, and then finally got back under the bar, front squatting, and, you know, got over it that way.
Okay, now I've got to ask you this because probably some people watching and listening to this are probably thinking the same thing as me. Now, you said that you've kind of modeled your training after Ronnie Coleman for all these years. You like to lift heavy and stuff, which obviously I think that's great in terms of laying a foundation and putting on mass. At some point though, do you ever think about maybe going a different route just for the sake of longevity and health? Or do you not really see yourself changing up your training anytime soon?
No, I recently did that. I mean, I think I did that shortly after Chicago Pro. I kind of like veered off of doing heavy every single day. And I'm still going to train heavy, but I'm definitely more mindful of the longevity piece. And, you know, I was constantly getting like little strains and stuff like that along the way, like little minor injuries. So now it's like, you know, knock on wood, it's not as common. So I'm definitely going to tailor it with, you know, age and how my body responds to it. Like I said, it was just being hard-headed, wanting to go after it.
Yeah. So what's kind of like your training look like right now? Just like what's the the blueprint or the outlay of your general training at this point?
So I do chest and tris on Monday, Tuesdays, quads and glutes, a rest Wednesday. And that was my biggest thing, was taking rest days. You know, I've trained 6 days in a row, which is a big no-no. So, rest Wednesday, Thursday, I hit back, and Friday, shoulders and biceps, Saturday, hams and glutes. And then today I'm off.
Okay, cool. And then, so is it kind of like the typical kind of progressive overload, like doing the top set and some back offsets? What's the actual structure of it?
So since I've been doing it for so long, it's not anything set in stone. I base it off how I feel. You know, if some days I'm feeling like, you know, this weight feels good, I'll just stay at that weight and hit, you know, higher reps. If things are feeling light, I'm gonna go a little bit heavier and stay in about a 6 to 8 rep range. So, but usually I like to stay around the compound movements, you know, the hard shit, bench, squat, deadlift. Try to keep my sets a little bit less than what I used to. So I'll do probably 3, maybe 4 working sets, and then try to keep it like that, because I'm notorious for overtraining. So,
is that something that Matt's had to kind of have a talk or two about in terms of just helping you kind of like pull things back and take more of those rest days, or have you kind of learned that on your own?
Hell yeah, he has. I mean, anytime I would post a video of me hitting like a PR, I did one, I think earlier in the year, it was like a 565 bench, and I smoked it. I mean, it was, you know, I could have went up, but as soon as I posted it, and I would set a timer for how long it was going to take him to message me, and he messaged me like, dude, what the fuck? So yeah, he stays on top of me. I'm getting better about it now. I just get, man, you put pre-workout in me and some pump products and music blaring, and you can't tell me shit.
Yeah. Well, yeah, well, I hope it continues in that direction in terms of, you know, you being able to train like that and getting the progress. I just see from the outside looking in, a lot of these top, you know, pros, you know, they really adjust their training, and as they get older and as they kind of already have that foundation. So, good on Matt for keeping his eyes on you. And it's cool to have somebody that's going to kind of hold you accountable like that. Now, in terms of the 2020 Chicago Pro debut, then did you take all of 2021 off, and then you just stepped on stage here recently at the Legion? Was that the first competition you did since Chicago Pro?
Yeah, that was the first one. We actually had called the 2021 season. We just couldn't get my body to respond, so we decided to go ahead and just take off. And then I had a little bit of roller coaster begin in January, just a lot of personal life events going on. So I couldn't really get set for a show. We choose one to do, and then some stuff would come up, and it was just one thing after the other. So finally, you know, I kind of buckled down. I was like, man, I got to get back on there. So finally chose Reno. I think this was like 5 weeks out. And we ended up doing it. And I think we got 4th out of 20. I think it was definitely, yeah.
Okay. So talk about it. You made a post on your Instagram. You said that you guys tried something a little bit different and didn't go the way you wanted. So, I mean, if you don't want to get into the details, that's fine, but I would like you to just talk about, you know, your thoughts on the Legion.
Oh, yeah, I'll talk about it. So we decided to do a diuretic, which I've never done. Started on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I haven't flown a lot, so me and flights don't really get along. And I had a window seat on a small plane, the second flight there. So between that, looking at my phone, and it was like a 3-hour time difference, and every hour I'd look, it was the same time. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? So then I just started like driving myself crazy. The bathroom, you know, my head was, you know, had to bend down just to go in there. But so I missed some water and some meals. I think I only got 4 meals and like 1.5 gallons of water when I was supposed to be getting, I think, 2.25. And then from that point on, I felt myself flattening out. So if you would ask me Wednesday, I was confident. I was like, I'm ready to rock and roll. And then every day it just got worse. And like 2 days out, I messaged him. I was like, man, I don't think I'm going to recover from this, because, you know, it's a high risk, low reward. obviously I got the high risk part. So it was just one of those things where, you know, ain't nothing you could do. You're out there, you got 2 days left. So we went into prejudging. I came in flat and soft. But I was pretty dehydrated. I had a headache and everything. So after prejudging, I had 5 guys, which normally is the trick for me. It'll help fill me out, just make me look crazy, but that didn't do anything. Drink 50 ounces of water. That didn't do anything. So finally, a buddy of mine was like, why don't you just drink a Gatorade? So I took 2 sips of it. And then within 5 minutes, you could see veins coming out my shirt. So I started coming back to life for that, but I'm not sure if they rejudged finals or not, because I think it was kind of already set in stone. So I ended up coming in a little bit fuller, but I definitely should have just been more conditioned and a little bit leaner.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And then you guys have kind of decided to shut it down for the rest of the year. Then after that Legion competition?
No, I'm on low food today. So hopefully I can hop into something soon. More than likely it's going to be Atlantic.
Okay, cool, man. And how many weeks out are you from that then?
That's on the 19th. So
About like 3 weeks or so?
3 or 4 weeks.
Okay. And I'm assuming your goal is to win and get your Olympia qualification, right?
That's absolutely right.
Okay. Cool. All right. Now, what's kind of like from your pro debut up to this point, like what's kind of been your focus, Zack? You said you have quite a bit of weight that you can put on in terms of your weight cap because of your height. What's kind of been your focus in terms of body parts you're trying to bring up, or is it just overall size? Like, talk to us just a quick minute about that.
So obviously I'm upper body dominant. Just bringing out my legs a lot more, specifically adductors, hams. And then I'd like to get a little bit more lower lats. I have high lat insertions. So I think that would help. You know, I have a small waist too, so that would be good to add on. And then I heard on one of the live stream was the commentator, I don't know who it was, said I had long arms. So now I'm thinking about getting a little bit bigger arms, you know, take these 20s up to 21s or something.
Right. Okay. Now, when I see your pictures on Instagram, I mean, you to me, you have pretty awesome structure. Like when you're just doing like your update photos that you post on Instagram, like if I'm just scrolling through, it's like right away, I'm like, dude, like this guy has the structure. Now in terms of your legs, like to me, when I see your photos on Instagram, like you have some pretty awesome separation, like within your quads. So is it just really just, I mean, because of your height, you're just trying to get them overall like bigger, the sweep and things like that? Because correct me if I'm wrong, you really have some great detail in those quads, right?
Yeah, it's just like I hold a lot of fat in my quads. I don't really hold any in my stomach. It's all in my quads and lower body. But I need more adductors because whenever I do, you know, there'll be 28s in the off season and they'll drop an inch or so when I start to cut down. So just overall size, you know, if I can keep the detail and, you know, the sharpness, that'll be great. But just, yeah, especially more adductors. That's what I lack.
Okay. All right. I want to ask you then in terms of, and again, this is kind of for everybody watching, listening. If somebody's out there and, you know, they want to get into bodybuilding, they want to compete, you kind of said like you said, hey, instead of trying to figure it all out on your own, get a coach kind of from the get-go. What's your recommendation in terms of finding the right coach? Because there's a million different coaches out there. Some of them are legit, some of them aren't. How can somebody kind of sift through and find a coach that's going to maybe work for them, at least in the beginning?
Well, if you have the knowledge, just ask questions. That's really what sold me. I had multiple coaches before I even started, like come up to me, want to take me on and all that. And just by listening to some of the protocols with their other athletes, you know, what they had them doing, it's just stuff I wasn't willing to do. And if, you know, you feel like you're smarter than somebody, don't hire them. But if you don't have that knowledge, the way I really kind of look at it is look at their clients, look at their less gifted clients, right? Because obviously they're going to be posting their genetically gifted ones. but I want to see what you can do with an average Joe. If you could turn around and have them peeled inside and out and full, you can do that with me. So it's always pay attention to the clients that don't get that much attention and see their progress. If they're really making improvements, then there you go.
Great advice. Okay. We're going to start wrapping up, but I want to ask you here a couple more things, Zach, before I let you go today. You said that, you know, you want to be a classic physique, Mr. Olympia. Like that's your ultimate goal. Now, earlier you kind of told yourself like, hey, I'm going to compete in, I think, you know, 5 shows or give it 5 years. And if I don't turn pro in that time, I'm going to walk away. Obviously you turn pro. Do you kind of have the same mindset in terms of when you would like to be on the Olympia stage and win the Olympia, or are you not quite as, you know, a stickler in terms of that now that you're a pro?
No, I definitely have a timeline on that. I mean, 10 shows, less than 10 or less shows, I should be on that stage. You know, as far as winning it, you know, I want to cross that bridge of getting there first. But I mean, I would say 15 or less shows, I mean, should be enough time.
Okay, cool. All right. Who are some of the current classic physique guys that obviously they're your peers, you want to beat them all, but are there some physiques that you really admire or some of the guys that you really respect that you that are your peers currently?
Obviously like all the top guys are, you know, pretty solid. There's let's see. There's one guy from Brazil, I can't think of his name, like Gabriel something. He has a pretty solid physique. Oh man. I have to think about that one. Yeah, just mainly your top guys. You know, they're pretty much setting the standard for the rest of us. So, and it's cool to see what they're doing. You know, they're going outside of bodybuilding, like making a career out of it and things like that. Yeah. Just being good reps for the sport. So, you know, just your top guys right now.
Okay. Do you see C-Bum winning again this year?
Yeah, man, that dude's a problem. There's a problem.
Yeah. I think, you know, as I kind of watch from the outside looking in, you know, I actually had somebody on earlier today and he just, another classic physique guy, Marcus Perry, he's going to the Olympia. He just won Hurricane Pro, really awesome guy, really down to earth, very humble. He told me, he's like, he said, this is my opinion. He's like, I think after this year, we're going to see Chris walk away and just kind of focus more on, you know, the business and everything he's got going. And I just kind of from the outside looking in, Chris has so much stuff going on. I think before he gets beat, he's going to be somebody that's going to walk away and just kind of pursue all the things that he has. What do you think about that? Or do you think somebody's going to knock him off before he retires?
Man, he just linked up with a top coach. So I think as long as he's winning, I think it's going to take for him to get dethroned for him to actually walk away from it. Or maybe he might have like a number in his head, like I want to win 5 or something. But I think his foot's going to be on the gas until he starts running into issues where prep is no longer enjoyable. I think he's reached like a stride to where he's figuring out his body, figuring out what works and everything. And as long as he keeps coming in better, I mean, I don't see anybody dethrone him anytime soon.
Yeah, yeah. Good point on working with Hani. I mean, it doesn't really get much better than that, right? Okay, fun question for you, and then we'll wrap it up, Zach. Any gym pet peeves? Is there anything that really annoys you when you're in the gym, somebody doing something or not doing something?
Man, we could be here all day. No, obviously your usual not racking weights, but self-awareness, you know, where you're standing, where you're lifting, like, you know, try to be conscious of other people. It's a pretty big one, yeah. But yeah, I don't really have too many.
Okay. I know for me, like trying to do barbell squat, like in a public gym, cause I just train in a garage now, which I love it. But, you know, trying to like do like a barbell squat or something where it's like, you have to really just get more focused maybe than some other movements. And you've got people that are like in the squat rack next to you, dude. And they're just like, I mean, walking around, like, dude, it just made me so nervous. It gave me so much anxiety. It's like, I got to get out of here, man. Cause it's just like, people, you're right. People just, they don't even, they're like in their own little world. They got their headphones on. They're like going to bump into your bar when you've got like a bunch of weight on the squat bar. It's like, dude, I can't handle this. So, I don't know how some of you guys train in these public gyms and you're lifting the weight that you're lifting. You guys are pros. I don't know how you do it. And you got some 13-year-old that's, flexing in the mirror and walking in front of that. I don't know how you guys do it, but anyways. All right, Zack, before I do a quick outro and let you go, I want to give you the opportunity to give any shout outs. Why don't you give us your Instagram? If you do any coaching or anything like that, how can people connect with you? Anything you want to leave us with, the platform's yours. I'll do a quick outro and then I'll let you go, my man.
My IG is lumberjack Zack _. My name's Zack, not Jack. A lot of people think for some reason my name's Jack. Same code. If you guys want to check out Black Magic Supply, they have a bunch of great products. Lumberjack gives you 20% off. And just check out the Office Gym.
Okay, cool, man. Do you do any coaching or not?
Yeah, but I only take on a handful right now just because, with competing and all that, it's hard to get that foggy brain out and trying to help somebody else. So I got a handful right now, but once I shut it down for the season, that's when I'll pick up more.
Okay, cool. All right, Zack, appreciate you sharing your life story, man, and bodybuilding story with us, okay?
All right, appreciate you having me.
Yeah, for sure, my man. All of you who are tuning in to another episode of Behind the Muscle Podcast, I just want to say thank you so very much. Two quick things before we wrap up this conversation with Zack. I would just ask that you would hit that subscribe button on YouTube. That's really important because I release all these episodes first on YouTube, and then I'll distribute them to iTunes, CastBox, Podbean, and some of the other major podcast platforms. And then also take this episode of Zack, share it on your Instagram stories. Make sure you tag Zack, tag Behind the Muscle, so that we know that you listened specifically to this episode and found great value in it, in which I know you did. And then finally, I will leave you all with this. Remember, behind the muscle, there's always a story. We'll catch you guys later.